So while I wanted to build the entire piece in one chunk, I realized that that chunk only gives me enough space to expose... Oh boy. Hello YouTube, my name's Ty, and today we're finally building my multi-item sorter beginning to end in a real survival world. We've hit a little snag, but we'll be okay. I wanted my output chests displayed in this stronghold library, but it looks like this final slice doesn't quite fit into the chunk border, so this will be a good stress test for the system, just to confirm that nothing breaks when we build it across chunks. Alright, so let's get started on the spine. Just make sure you've placed your barrels where you want your item outputs to begin, and let's place some hoppers on top. So that's going to be 2 hoppers facing down, 1 hopper facing in toward your item elevator, and that'll take some temporary blocks here. Another hopper facing down, and then another hopper facing out, away from your item elevator. And on top of that, we're just going to place a double chest with the double side leaning in toward where your item elevator is. Alright, so we're just going to repeat the same build down the line. Again, that's down, down, into the item elevator, another one down on each stack, and 1 out away from the item elevator. Then you want your double chests, and finally connect all your stacks together, just at the top here. And there we go, our spine is done, let's move on. Alright, so next up we're finding our B stacks, those are the second in each pair, and we're going to place a target block on not the first, but the second hopper up from each barrel. There we go. Get some slabs out. And I'm going to be using smooth stone for my A slices and polished andesite for my B slices. So I'll put some polished andesite right there and some polished andesite right there. Now over on this side, we actually need a gap, same level, but I'm just going to use a temporary block over here. And then my smooth stone, take out the temporary block. Same thing over here. Next up, we're going to place 4 glass blocks on the A slices. Use those for some support here, and then we're going to place 2 glass blocks, a space, and then 2 more glass blocks for our B slices. There we go. We then put a glass on top of each of our target blocks, and in the same position on the A slices. And over here on the A slice, we're going to put 1 piece of glass right there, bridging between the 2 sections. And just back here, we'll place 2 more solid bricks there. Now, just for the sake of completeness, let's get these done right now. Oop, this one should be a temporary block. There we go. You know, at the end of this, I should really put together a compilation of just me falling. I am going to fall so many times over the course of this build. Alright, got that done, so now we basically cover the whole thing in redstone. Notably not these 2 blocks, though. Alright, we're going to take out some repeaters. And on our A slices, they go right here. On our B slices, right there. After that, we're just going to do a nice glass, solid glass, here above each of the slices. Same pattern. And then we're going to do this triangle of solid blocks. So it looks like a triangle coming off the end of the B slice, with this one block being part of the A slice. So we'll just do the same over here. Alright, back over to our A slice. We're going to place a solid block up here against this hopper, so that we can read out of it with our comparator. And this will be the same thing on each side. After that, it's a piece of redstone for each comparator. And then we get into the really interesting parts. So we are going to place a barrel here on each slice with a subtraction comparator pointing into it. And you don't necessarily have to care about your orientation for your barrels, but I like to keep mine all nice and lined up. Now we do have to put 10 non-stackable items into each of our barrels, so I do recommend bringing a shulker box with you, otherwise this is going to be a lot of back and forth. Alright, so we're just going to double check that these comparators are in subtraction mode. And we're going to place some dust coming out the back of each of these barrels. Oh, and it's now that I've realized we are missing 2 pieces of glass on our B-slice that carry the redstone signal down. So let's just put those in now. That's going to be coming out the back here of your B-slice. One there, and one step down. And a redstone on top of each. You'll know you've done it right up to this point if your redstone is powered all the way up to these hoppers here. Alright, so with some new scaffolding in place, let's come back up here. And we're now going to place redstone on each of these solid blocks right in front of the chests, followed by a barrel. Now let's remove those temporary blocks and place a solid block behind each of these barrels. We then need 1 extra solid block on the B slices only, and on each slice we'll put a solid above the redstone here. Now importantly, we do also need a solid and a glass block right here in between each. And of course, because barrels are the most useful item in all of redstone, we are going to need another barrel over here to provide signal strength for the comparators that we're about to place. So again, these are subtraction comparators. What we're going to be doing here is placing even more non-stackable items into our chests. This time 6 per barrel. Alright, now we just want 2 pieces of redstone coming into the side of those comparators. Oh, and now that I'm looking at this, I realize we have a little correction. This block should not be here. It should be on slice A. Let's just fix that. There we go, and there we go. We're then going to put 2 solid pieces right here. 1 solid piece above here on slice B, and same thing over here. And finally for this section, we'll do the redstone. So that's 1 piece on top of every barrel. And then straight back. Alright, so if you've done everything correctly at this point, you should notice that all of these redstones are powered up. And that means we're done this section. So these top 3 layers here are just responsible for locking this hopper almost all the time. What's going to happen is we're putting our filter items in here, and anytime this far left spot is empty, but the filter items are in place, we will have exactly enough power coming out of this comparator and going through the system to power this redstone as it is right now and keep this hopper locked. Now, when we have an item or more in this first spot here, that's going to produce a signal strength of 2, which is exactly enough to counter this signal strength 6 coming out of this barrel and through that comparator. So signal strength 6 coming out of there, -1 ordinarily, -2 if there is an item in here, means that we'll be getting a strength of 5 or 4 into this barrel. So this is 5 or 4, 4 or 3, 3 or 2, 2 or 1, and over here we have 1 when there's no item going through and 0 when there is an item going through. Now this hopper here is going to be producing a constant strength signal of 1 until the exact moment when this drops to strength 4. Now, this comparator, you might notice it looks like it's off right now. It is in subtraction mode, and it's receiving a strength of 4 coming into the side here. It's also reading a strength of 4 due to these single non-stackable items in here. Now, because it's in subtraction mode, 4 minus 4 is 0, it's outputting a strength of 0. But when this strength drops to 3 for an instant, this will kick in, going up to a power of 1 and powering this immediately after. So that produces a nice 1-tick pulse for us that will allow one item and only one item to drop from this box into this hopper only when there is an item filling up this slot, which means that we'll have our 1 item and our 4 filter items. So the only items that can drop down into that slot will stack up on the first position, and only if they match that item in the first position. That's kind of the key to our entire sorting system here. The wiring we've done underneath there is going to send a signal strength of 1 or 0 down to here, depending on whether there is that non-filter item here in our hopper. So when we do have that one item, we'll have a delay of approximately 2 ticks, and then this hopper will open up, pulling the item out of that hopper. So the filter items will remain in place in all circumstances, because if there are only filter items in there, there is only enough strength to provide 1 power here, which is not enough to knock the signal down and unlock the hopper. Okay, so at this point we want to put some solid blocks down right underneath our slabs. So I'll put one there and 1 2 spaces back. 1 there, 1 2 spaces back. And there. And finally, right there. And right there. Okay, we've got our array of solid blocks. We'll then put a glass block behind each of the barrels. And here's where our 2 slices start getting a little different. This one, the A slice, we're going to place a block right there, and then 1 2 right there, and 1 2. Over here we're going to use a temporary block and a temporary block, glass, glass, and then remove our temporary blocks. And same over here. Alright, next let's place a comparator pointing backward out of each hopper above the barrel. Alright, now for some repeaters. I'm going to place 1 there on 2 ticks, and 1 up here on 3 ticks. So A slice 2 ticks, B slice 3 ticks. And we'll do the same over here, there and there. 3 ticks on the B slice, 2 ticks on the A slice. And now we're just going to cover everything that we just laid, all the glass anyway, in redstone. There we go. Now coming in from the A slice, we'll put glass, redstone, another piece of glass right here, and redstone on both. And for the B side, we'll put 1 just coming out here from our repeater. Same thing on our other slices. 1 there, 1 there. Redstone, redstone. And I'm just going to clear out a little more over here to make sure we don't get any unintentional redstone transmission through these solid blocks. Alright then, back to our A slices. We are going to put a glass block here and here, and one between the barrels, and redstone on all three. And again for our A slice, two in the middle, one between the barrels. Next, again on the A slice, we're going to place a solid back here, right behind our repeater, with redstone on top and a redstone torch on the face. Now over here on our B side, let's place a glass block, redstone on top, and target block here, more redstone on top. Then head back over this way, still on our B slice, we're going to place 1, 2, 3, all with redstone on top. And again over on this B slice, though over here I am using some temporary blocks just to place my glass. But again, we place glass, redstone, target block, redstone, and a torch on this target block. And then once again, glass, 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 redstone, redstone, redstone. And those should be good. Alright, now what we want to do is on each of these torches, we're going to place a glass block. So glass there, and some dust up there, solid block, and a comparator on there. And we're just going to do the same thing for each of our slices now. Quick helpful hint, if you want to place redstone or a comparator, any redstone equipment on top of a block and you can't quite reach that angle, you can always click on the face of any other block facing that space. Solid block, and our last comparator. There. Now, what that comparator is reading is going to be our dispenser, which in each case here you want pointing down and with powdered snow in it. Now, powdered snow specifically, because what we can do with powdered snow is dispense it without disrupting any of our other circuits. It doesn't conduct redstone, but it does register as a non-stackable item when in powdered snow form, and a stackable item when in bucket form, meaning that you get a different redstone signal out depending on which one is present. So when dispensed, it outputs a redstone signal strength of 1, and I believe when undispensed, you get a redstone signal strength of 2. So what this is doing is if an item is passing through here, meaning the selector has already gone off, it says these items belong down here in this storage slice. This comparator will read items passing through it. We'll get our redstone signal just up to here, just a redstone signal of 1, meaning we have to have this repeater here, and likewise repeater here. We have that delay so that we get a nearly continuous signal. That full strength signal then comes back up this way, and we're going to use that for keeping these hoppers here unlocked. So a quick correction from Ty in the future here. This is not actually where you put the dispensers, though it will look like that for pretty much the rest of the build, because I put them in the wrong spot. The actual place you want to put the dispenser is right underneath the hopper pointing down. And where I told you to put the dispenser before, you're going to place a solid block through which your comparator can read. Just like that. Put our powdered snow back in, and that should be working now. There. So it'll look like this. There's your redstone, your comparator, a solid block, and your dispenser. Not like it is over there. I'm going to fix those next. Anyway, back to where we were. Alright, so now that we've got that done, let's actually work on locking those hoppers. So on our A slices, we need just a quick temporary block here, glass out here, glass up here, get rid of the temporary block, and a solid block here. Our B slices, we're just going to put glass straight off the end of the existing glass. We're then going to put a torch on our solid blocks and redstone on this piece of glass sticking out. For our B slice, we want our repeater coming out here. And a quick note from future Ty, you are absolutely going to want to place redstone on top of that block as well. Otherwise, your going to lose all your items into this barrel. And then we're going to start our observation system. So if you're facing in this way, we're going to want our observers to be looking to their right into the next available chest. So once we've got that, make sure this next observer is facing up so that whenever something is placed into or taken out of this chest, this observer will trigger. We then want a solid block underneath. And then coming off the top of our torch on the A slice, we're going to build a little piston device. So that's going to be solid on the torch, obsidian up there, and a piston pointed up into the obsidian. So again, that's solid there, obsidian here, and a piston here, pointed up into the obsidian. What we can then do is place a torch going out of that piston, and that will invert this torch's signal down here. Now we're going to do the same thing coming out here, because this repeater is going to produce a similar redstone signal to that torch. So we're going to place solid block, obsidian, piston. There we go. So coming off the top of this torch, we're going to place a solid block and redstone on top of all of those solid blocks. And then our comparators are going to face toward the chest of their slice. So in my case, I'm building this way, so I'm pointing my comparator to the right. And in case you didn't know what I just did there, in Bedrock at least, you can, if you do it just right, sprint across empty blocks. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I wouldn't bet my life on it. And after that, we're going to place more barrels. Oh, actually, before I close that one off, let's put a single stone in there. And I'm just going to place some temporary blocks here so that I can walk out. There we go. And technically, this barrel could be a solid block and could contain nothing at all, but just in case I want to expand over this way in the future, I'm just going to future-proof it by putting a single item in that barrel right now. Quick fun fact about these comparators, they can be in either subtract or non-subtract mode, as they will only ever be outputting a signal strength of 1, and 1 minus anything is 0. So if this redstone is on, they'll be putting out a 0. If it's not on, signal strength 1. So on top of there, let's just go ahead and place this hopper so I can explain what this is for. What's happening here is this barrel being powered or not powered is what dictates whether we are returning an item to our selector chest or not. Almost all the time, this comparator is going to be on, powering this barrel, powering this hopper, which will mean the hopper does not pull anything out of the hopper chain we are going to be placing over top of here in a few minutes. The only time it's turned off is when an item has been taken out of this selector chest. Our observer has detected it, and we're waiting for that item to come up and around, in which case we want it to come down here and go back into that chest. So in that case, when that comes back, it'll go back into the chest. Our observer will see that it's coming back and will send another signal to our T flip-flop, which will turn this on again and lock our hopper. All right, so now that we've got that, we're going to build our item elevators. And I suspect I'm going to have to take out a wall here. All right, so we're going to start by placing a double chest on the side of each of these torches. And then we're going to use a pair of hoppers going into each. Just like that. Now with that done, I think I'm going to need to place some more scaffolds because where I want to be is actually quite high up here because we're placing our droppers now pointing up just in front of our chests. There we go, dropper in front of each. Now we're going to drop back down and put hoppers facing into those droppers. Oop, not there. And we'll put some observers to detect when an item comes into that chest. 2 facing up, and 1 facing into that observer. And finally a solid block just here in this corner. Alright, so as soon as an item comes into this chest, it's going to get pulled out by this hopper. At the same time, this observer will tick, send a redstone pulse to this solid, which will trigger this dropper, shooting the item up into our item elevator that we build now. Alright, so having cleared this whole chunk of my library out, we're going to place glass blocks down here. Mind you, you could use anything you really want. I just choose glass for the time being because I want to see through and tell everything that I'm doing. Feel free to choose anything that suits your fancy here though. We do then need to build a little staircase out of these glass blocks. So find some temporary block to build upon, or if you're feeling particularly precise, just use the edge of your redstone here. And a little trick of Bedrock, once you have a thin piece on top of a block, you can actually aim off the edge while you're standing on it, and it'll show up in a ladder formation. Not so if you have nowhere to target. So you want your cursor to be aiming through where the block is going to go, but not actually targeting anything. And redstone on top of all of those. Let's hop up here and add our next level of droppers. And I am going to remove these temporary blocks now, as I don't think I'm going to need them. We're going to put a solid block in front of each of these new droppers. And now we have a quick choice where we want the observer to be. Really, it's a matter of where you want to be walking through. If you are ever happening to do maintenance here, either down here at this level or up here one level up. And I think just because of the fact that we can get here and keep our wall somewhat intact, I am going to place my observers blocking that lower path, and we'll leave the upper path available for walking. So you want your observers placed facing down into the redstone. Next, we need to make sure we have this whole space here cleared out, because we are going to add 3 more layers. All right, so once you've got that space cleared away, grab your droppers and place 3 down. Now we're going to build our observer chains, and that can get a little tricky in the placement here, but we want an observer looking down at each of these top redstone dusts. So what we're doing here now is just placing one observer pointing into each of the other observers to essentially branch off the signal. And then we're going to put a solid block at the back for the signal to pass into. Because if the observers are butted straight up against the elevator, then there is a strong chance of triggering more than one dropper at a time, which we just don't want to do at all. There we go. So that's going to shoot our items up and out of here. And now we're going to place those hoppers on the very top. We'll start at the output hopper, go down in there, and just walk backwards here, making sure we go over top of our return hopper. All the way back. Oh, one too far. We just want to go back to the dropper here. And now that's a complete circuit. So whenever an item passes through here, it's going to go up and around and into the next slice. And we're just going to repeat that now for all 3 other slices. Now you'll notice that there is no outgoing hopper over here. This is where we can put our non-sorted items chest or non-sorted item slice, whatever we want to do with it. But for now, I'm just going to place a hopper over here pointed into the wall and another there, and then back up here. Quick note from Future Ty here. It was about now that I realized this is 1 block too low. It's actually getting in the way of things over here. So we'll just move that barrel up a little bit here with a new hopper pointed in the side and take out both of those. That should do the trick. So with those complete, the only step I missed in our repeating section here is putting our filter items in, entirely because I don't have any filter items with me. So let's go get some filter items. All right, so the easiest way to put the filters in is before you've built everything up, but if you've already done that, then you're going to have to do some piece removal temporarily. For these ones on the edge, you're fine. You can just put 1, 2, 3, and then 19. Oop. and in this case, accidentally send a piece of paper through. Oh, oops. Well, on the bright side, that should end up right over there. Don't really want to remove any of these hoppers because that's going to be very difficult to put back in place. What I am willing to remove, though, is up here. Well, the most painless thing to break is this block. Then we can crouch down and reach up right there. Yeah, we'll just toss out our paper. 19 of them, there we go. And we'll replace this block here before we forget. So we're just going to open that. Put 3 here and 19 here. Actually, while we're at it, we can reach this hopper as well. Perfect. 1, 2, 3, and 19. There we go. Replace this block and put our redstone dust on top. Now at this point, we're done the slices, so we can start loading up our selector chests with whatever we want to stock in our slices. I'm going to hold off on that for now though, because before that I actually want to build the item type separator. So that's going to come in over here. We want space for 2 additional slices in the future possibly, so let's put 4 hoppers there. And then it's going to come 2 out the side, and we can start work over here. Alright, so on the end there, we're going to want a hopper going down, and then we want a hopper facing in either direction, really. But just because I have this big empty space over here that feels like it needs filling, and it's closer to my item source, I'm going to point it over in this direction. So what I've done here is left this space here for a future slice, this space here for a slice, and then 1 hopper in between, and another hopper going straight down into the last hopper on the row. Then 1 on top there, pointing over this way with a solid block in that direction. So with that, we are going to place a double chest here on top, just pointing out away from our build, with our final observer here looking into it from over here. So that polished andesite is actually a temporary block right now, but I can use it quite handily for that. Clear this out, put a little bit of redstone dust right there, and we'll put a glass block down there. Repeater on top on 4 ticks. Then going to put another glass block right here. And just for the time being, I'm going to put these here to stand on. Now, 1 tick repeater goes there. A solid block goes right behind it. Another solid block is not going here. This is just temporary. The solid block's actually going there. And we're putting a torch on it. There we go. So that should lock this hopper. So now that we've got that, another temporary, because I'm putting a glass down there. Glass, glass, glass. And we can put some redstone there and there. And then I'm going to do some more glass out this way. Just like this. Alright, so here we're going to put our pulse extender. In case you weren't aware, what a pulse extender is a group of redstone components that will take a short positive redstone input and turn it into a longer positive redstone input. So when that input goes away, it'll take some time for this to wind down, power down, and stop sending an output here. So we're almost done at this point. All we want is a repeater over here powering a solid block. So what that repeater is going to soft powers this hopper here, keeping it locked. When there is a matching item set going in there, we then place another solid block right here with redstone on top, like that. And this one is not a solid block. Let's put that comparator right there where it belongs. We'll put a solid block over here where it belongs with redstone on that. And then our redstone torch right there. So that is going to keep our bottom hopper here, or middle hopper here, locked until there is a sufficient number of items in here, 2 redstone signals worth. So we'll just fill this up with our filter before I forget. 1, 2, 3, and 19 over here. There you go. So you can see that's powering just 1 redstone power. When it reaches 2 redstone power, that's going to deactivate this torch and after a short delay, this system will power down, unlocking that bottom hopper. It's also going to send 0 redstone signal over here to this block, which you may remember we placed a redstone torch on. So at the same time, almost, as this hopper gets unlocked, this hopper up here is going to get locked by this torch coming on, or at least it would, except for this back system here. So before this can power down, any items coming out of this chest are going to make this observer tick. It'll send a pulse down here, holding this repeater open, meaning that this hopper can continue to pull items out even after this hopper gets unlocked, but only if the items match. And there will be enough of a backlog in here, thanks to this pulse extender, that the only items coming down will be the ones matching whatever's in this slot here. So there's our item separator. The only thing left to do is fill up these selector chests and see if it works. I'm going to fill this first box with some redstone pieces. The order doesn't really matter. You can put them anywhere. They'll just come back to the top left when they are sorted for the first time. Yeah, that looks good to me. All right, in this next chest, let's put some stones that we might mine. In the next one, we'll put our, let's say, our building materials. In the next one, those are things like our smooth stone, our polished andesite, and even our glass. We could even put some stone bricks over here too. And then in the last one over here, I think we'll put the assorted drops that we don't much care to find most of the time. Yeah, we'll put mod drops and random mining drops in here that we don't really need that often. Yep, I think that sounds good for now. Alright, so the last thing to do is make sure all these comparators are powered on. So for those that are not, this one right here, for example, we are going to open up its selector chest and remove and replace an item very fast, and just like that, it powers on. Likewise for this one over here, open up the selector chest. There we go. All that's left to do is give it a try. I am going to dump just everything in my inventory except for some non-stackables. And oh no, the filter papers. Whew, that was almost a disaster. Fortunately, our pulse extender hadn't run out yet. Whew, gotta keep those filter papers out of trouble. Man. Alright, so everything's running. Our redstone pieces are going there. Our miscellaneous items are going there. This looks like it is working. This is fantastic. Whew. All right. Well, what an ordeal. But we now have our fully functional item category sorter. Multi-item sorter. Or categorizer. It really needs a better name, something easier to remember. Rapscallion, if you happen to watch this, if you could give it a better name than multi-item sorter, I'd really appreciate it. I say we just call it a sorter categorizer. Yep, in fact, from now on, I'm just going to call this monstrosity my categorizer. So just for your own reference, I am not going to keep redstone dust in here forever. I have a different place to sort my redstone dust. It's going to be part of my automatic potion brewer, which integrates into my item system, which I will be putting up eventually, but I do need to do a couple other small projects first. And with that, thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Tycraft. I'm super glad I finally got to share my categorizer build with you all. If you have any questions left after this, do let me know in the comments. If I need to, I am happy to put out another video explaining any questions that you have, fixing any issues you have with it. But for the time being, I just hope you enjoy using it as much as I enjoyed designing it. That's all for today. See you in the next one.